And of course, when you have a ritualistic context like this, where they give the Egregore a name and they create a ceremony dedicated to it, that's when an Egregore becomes a god, right? Or a demon.
Eén van jullie hoort hier niet. Jullie hebben 2 minuten om te beslissen wie van jullie per direct aan...
And this is Fleur Bombs, the one who got the internship.
Fleur Bombs.
And we seem quite perplexed about it. Right, so she's in the same medicine class as Rosa.
Het lijkt me duidelijk.
Ik ga wel.
Like, she's just not made for this at all, right? And that just shows you that just as Rosa can be a really hardworking, gifted student and not sort of get a break, then we have this one who was sort of surprised, perplexed that she got the internship. Now she's here, not really ready and willing to go through with the ceremony. And yet she's being carried, right? She's being carried by her family, basically. By her family name.
Stelletje indolente kutfeuten. Jouw pa, olie. En jij, pharma. En ik weet zeker dat jij van de familie bent die wapens deelt.
This is indeed very much the case in the Netherlands, where sociological research actually shows that an upwards to 2/3 of all top cabinet positions, judiciary positions, finance positions are occupied by former members of these student secret societies that make up the corpora. So this is not some sort of dystopic Netflix world building going on here. This is very much what is going on in Dutch society today, where the sons and daughters of these elite families end up in the top positions of society, right? The VOC families went from governing the seas, if you will, to going back and governing the country, turning their liquid finances from their maritime capitalist empire into a grounded domestic financial system that they run. And this is all by design by the VOC families that have very much created a system, a closed loop, if you will, that favors themselves. Yeah.
Neef is 4 jaar lang president geweest.
De president van Ares zit maar 2 jaar. Mijn broer zit in de Senaat.
So we see here that Ares is developed based on this state within a state model that we saw with the VOC, of course, where they have their own president, their own senate. So this is very much a society unto itself, to use Kantian terminology.
Het is een test. Ontgroeningen gaan altijd over saamhorigheid.
And that is very much the case. Like, these ceremonies are very much about building that solidarity, right? A solidarity that is intended to last not just throughout the university years, but beyond them.
Christia toont. Vertel Beal uw grootste geheim.
So a couple of things here. First, this is the first mention of Beal. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Sounds very much like Baal. And the second thing worth noting here is that he has to tell them, or tell Beal, his deepest, darkest secret. This is a feature of these student secret societies, not just in the Netherlands. We see that in Yale University with Skulls and Bones, where you have the new bonesmen sitting together. I've heard that it's either like in a cozy environment or actually lying in caskets. Wherever it takes place, they basically tell about their sexual history, their just sort of like life experiences, and their deepest, darkest secrets. What is disclosed in this forum is meant, of course, only to be shared amongst each other. There is a strict code of secrecy, and it's meant to sort of foster solidarity, right? To have these members expose themselves towards the brothers, right? Towards the fellow members. So that's the reason why they do that here. And of course, he's going to do this not only in front of his fellow peers, but also these higher ups standing on the balcony.
Het was donker. Ik had de koplampen nog uitstaan.
Voordat ik het wist, stak er iemand over en toen dat iemand erbij kon komen.
Hier bij Ares veroordelen we elkaar niet.
What would you share with Beal and Ares? Let us know down below. Just kidding, just kidding. Get your hands away from that keyboard.
Jacob Krudop-Six.
Jacob Krudop-Six. Quite the name, huh? My name is Krudop-Six. Jacob Krudop-Six.
Loyaliteit boven alles.
Right? Loyalty, color blue, yeah.
Een opdracht. Geleden kreeg u de taak om iemand voor ons te werven. Gezien uw persoonlijke band met deze potentiële noviet leek ons dit geen grote opgave. Maar u hebt de taak verzuimd. Kun je ons vertellen waarom noviet Krudop-Six heeft verzuimd jou te vragen bij ons te komen?
Misschien schaamt hij zich voor jullie. Of voor zichzelf.
Waarom zouden we jou toelaten?
Maar ik schaam me nergens voor.
I'm not ashamed of anything. There we have it again. Shame.
Een goede dokter is nooit weg.
Good doctor is always useful. I wonder where we have seen something similar.
I can't thank you enough for this. You saved my ass.
It's curious, why were they interested in Eyes Wide Shut to have Bill, a doctor, initiated into the order, if that is actually what they wanted?
Why do you think Ziegler invites us to these things every year?
And why is it that they want Rosa? That's another question that is worth pondering.
Vorm een cirkel rond uw president.
Joost, we missen een noviet.
Right, she's not part of the socio-economic elites, right? She's not part of upper echelon Dutch society, but she is hardworking, she is ambitious, she's a very Martian person, and of course Ares is the Greek name for Mars. So could it be that they are seeing a potentially valuable member, or is there another reason, a perhaps more esoteric reason, why they want her in the fold?
Kom. En wat als ik dat niet doe?
This is, by the way, the bigger brother of Fleur Bombs, Rosa's classmate, right, who got the internship.
Jacob, dit is je nieuwe thuis. Wij zijn je familie.
Right, this is very cultic language, right? A step in all cults is to have the person remove themselves from the family and then have the cult be the new family. Of course, in Jacob's case, it's both, because his family is also involved in this.
Je bent er net, moet je met deze masker op, al die mensen. Maar je snapt toch dat het allemaal theater is?
You know it's all an act, he says. Where have you heard that before?
Bill, suppose I told you that everything that happened to you there was staged.
Kom. We hebben hem hier! Oké, Jacob.
So this is the president's office, right? So this would be the Oval Office, if you will, of the Ares Lodge House, which is to say is not the most important place in Ares, because Ares is very much, again, a state within a state, like the VOC used to be, right? So it's functioning in this capacity as its own society. So they have their own Senate, they have their own president, and of course, if you are aware of the levels of power and influence in the world, you'll know that, you know, politicians, government, they're not all that powerful when it comes down to it. So that's what we see here, right, in Ares, where, you know, the Senate, the presidency are basically sort of very low-rung, more sort of day-to-day administrative task-type responsibilities, while the people on the balcony are the ones really running the society. But even amongst them, even amongst this upper echelon tier level of the order, there is an inner court that is even more exclusive, that is even more elite, that is even more secretive and influential. And we often see that in elite secret societies, where we have a secret society within the bigger secret society. And that is the case with Ares, as you will find out later in the season. So anyway, let's see what he finds here in this office, or rather beneath the office. This show very much explores what is at the foundation of elite power, right? The dark underpinnings that makes their influence possible. And of course, when you gaze into the abyss gazes back into you. So something is moving through these tubes, right? Moving down into the basement of the lodge house. What might that be? And now Jacob will meet the being that Rosa encountered. So, it seems very much like Rosa and Jacob are psychically sensitive and receptive, right? They can mentally step outside just normal everyday consciousness and connect with archetypal underlying realities. And as we talked about in the other part of the series, when you take the symbol of Aries, the A turned upside down, you get the V pointing to the VOC, the first mega corporation in the world, whose families founded these student secret societies.
Beal, ziet u.
And now they're gonna be branded. So there's the bigger brother and little sister here. A nice family moment that is sure to be etched into memory forever. And there we go. They're now members of Aries. And you can be sure that many of these people up there occupy the highest positions in Dutch society, as sociological research indeed shows. Upwards to 2/3 of all top cabinet positions, financial positions, judiciary positions are occupied by former members, current members of these student societies. Because it doesn't just end at university, this is for life.
Welkom. Oh, hi. Thanks.
Yeah.
But at least like they shoot her nice now that she's a member, you know, there's some solidarity. At least like a modicum of wholesomeness going on here. Nothing is so dark that there isn't at least a little bit of light. Now we have the president entering his office. And for these students, he might seem like a really sort of authoritative guy that occupies quite a powerful position, but here we see him basically quivering in his knees as he awaits a call for the guy who really runs the show.
Wat een verrassing.
Wist jij dat ons initiatieritueel nog veel ouder is dan Ares zelf?
Nee, wist ik niet.
The initiation ceremony being older than Ares itself has to do with the fact that they get their ceremonial identity from the VOC.
Joost, nu jij op ons niveau meedraait, eis ik absolute eerlijkheid. Hoe boos was het?
He's talking about Beal here.
Het was even wat onrustig beneden. Maar je had gelijk, het ritueel, dat hielp enorm.
En zolang wij het blijven voeden, is er niks aan de hand.
Mind, as long as we keep feeding it, it'll be alright. What we're dealing with here, to use an occult term, is an egregore. An egregore is a thought form that is created by and sustained by the collective mental energy of a group. There are many, many egregores. There are egregores of certain cultures, certain companies, ideologies, what have you. The Germans call it a Zeitgeist. Modern mundane society calls it a hive mind. So there are different names for it. And of course, when you have a ritualistic context like this, where they give the egregore a name and they create a ceremony dedicated to it and, as he says, feeds it, that's when an egregore becomes a god, right? Or demon. So that's what we're dealing with here. An egregore, a collective thought form that this society and its members feeds with what? Well, you'll have to watch the rest of the show to find out.
Hoe deed dit meisje?
Goed.
So we see that the head of Ares himself is interested in Rosa. For what reason? Well, that's another mystery that we will have to wait to find out. But regarding Beal, we do get one image that evokes it. And that is this sealing symbol of some kind of twisting vortex. And with that, see you for part 3, where we follow Rosa and Jacob as they become even more enmeshed in the elite underworld of Amsterdam. Take care, and until next time.